Sometimes it's difficult for you to really determine which is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the Cocoa Piece incident where those 5 persons were killed, including 4 children.
40 years, 4 months coming up in the police force. Father's Day is today. As a father and as a cop, what would have been the worst crime scene that you would have either seen or been there yourself or seen photos of?
I think there are so many crime scenes that, it's sometimes it's difficult for you to really determine which is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the Cocoa Piece incident where those 5 persons were killed, including 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the most gruesome scenes that I think I can recall. I actually went to the scene. I just glimpsed. I just couldn't stand to see what existed there. Very brutal. The type of gloominess that existed over the community. You see the response of the relatives. It takes strength really to stand up in those sort of scenarios. I think that's one of the worst. One of the things that since I took over this portfolio, I have implemented that people who work within, and it's a part of the wider policy of the JCF, who work within some sensitive areas, like those areas that deal with like the forensic scenes of crime, people that work within areas like Sissoko, that really have to deal with this traumatic type of scenes, they are subject to constant intervention by our chaplaincy unit, by some psychological intervention, etc., to see if, just to sort of help the process, because they are family members, they have to go home to their family, they have children, and the trauma can have significant psychological impact on them. I think those are some of the scenes. I remember again when I was an inspector, I used to do what I called supervision for the entire corporate area, like on a weekend. And I went to a scene on Maxwell Avenue where 2 persons were shot and killed. And when I saw the condition of the body, I reached a point that evening, moving from one scene to the other, where I almost lose it, if you understand. I turned off my radio, turned off my cellular phone, and I just decided that it was enough. I just went straight home, and no one could make any contact with me because it became so overwhelming. Just going to the scene, you hear the parents crying, the children crying, the mother crying, and you see the body lying on the ground. And that was after going to several other scenes. So these can be very traumatic.
Would it be fair to say that scenes involving children, that those impact you most or impact members of the constabulary most?
Yes, I think so. And personally, I could give a series. Even when I was divisional commander, I remember I went to a scene where this 8-year-old child was killed. And I think there are 2 categories of people: children and senior citizens, especially female. When you do murder a senior citizen, that also has a serious impact. Whilst every scene, it depends on the circumstances, but thinking of an elderly lady who should just be enjoying their retirement, enjoying that final moment in their life, and they are killed. I think those are some of the most traumatic scenes, children and elderly.
When you visited Cocoa Piece and would have seen the photos, because we know the scenes of crime, people, they have to spend hours there, and before the bodies are moved, to do their thing. Did you go home the day or the night after that, and or did you call any family member, call to find out where your children were that day?
I can't recall, but what I will say, I keep in constant touch with my children. And I have 2 girls and 1 boy. And it's surprising. It was yesterday I was having a discussion, and I was talking about the whole concept. I was looking at, how do we treat our boys. My son, I constantly remind him that he's loved by me. I'll say, especially my daughters. You say that
Yes.
regular to your daughters.
Yes.
But your son, sometimes we believe that it is not manly or to say to your son, I love you. But that's one of the things I keep on reminding my son. And I can't say that specific incident, because sometimes I don't want to even, I don't discuss some of those traumatic scenes with them, because I don't want it to have that impact on them. So even in terms of watching the news, sometimes you try to even prevent them from seeing some of those trauma that do exist. But I constantly remind them. Sometimes my daughters, they don't live with me, so sometimes it's difficult even to make that contact. You make the call, you don't get back that thought or response. And the truth is, the young people these days is a little different from our days. As an adult, growing up when if my mother made contact with me, that's priority for me to get in touch with my mother. But sometimes you're young with the children, think that everything is all right with daddy, but I constantly reach out to them in terms of that.
I was told at the time, sometime after, I remember writing the year in review that year after the Cocoa Piece murder, and I was told, some policemen told me that seasoned policemen and women wept at the scene.
Yeah, it was very traumatic. It takes a strong, you have to be very strong not to get emotional when you go to those scenes. Sometimes you try not to, you try to mask it. Especially men, we tend to mask our emotions and our feelings. But those scenes are very, very difficult. And think about the people who process the scene and they go to those scenes every day.
Yes.
How difficult it is
Yes.
for them. And those of us who are just observers, so to speak. Because at my level, I don't really necessarily go to the scene. Every now and then I may visit one. But think about those officers, parents, fathers, and mothers who actually visit the scene every day, and they have to interact with their children. And I think the wider issue, people don't understand. And sometimes we are blamed and we are condemned. But we are not talking about something that we watch or a movie. We are talking about the real and live situation. We have 1,300 murders on average per year, and every one of these murder scenes, every one of the scenes is visited by a team of officers. They see every wound, they see the blood, they see the trauma that these victims go through, and at the end of it, they have to return to their parent, to their family.
Do you know if there were anybody specifically from that Cocoa Piece scene who had to seek professional help?
I am not aware of it, but I have no doubt because we have mechanism in place to treat with those.
Do you get nightmares sometimes just seeing a picture from a scene or a particular scene that would have played over in your head?
Put it this way. I'm a very spiritual person. So at the end of each day, when I conclude, irrespective of how stressful and traumatic it is, I find some time to meditate, find some time to spend with my Maker and pray. And I think that gives a sense of, is it respite, relief? You may have the periodic, dream, if you want to call it that. What I find sometimes, though, is that you may not be able to sleep. You struggle to sleep when you go to those sort of scenes, and I don't think it is. Yeah, it's traumatized. Yeah, we may use that term, but sometimes you really struggle to sleep. And I guess the passion that you have, the passion that I have, when I come up on these type of crimes, it's like I cannot have any peace until there is some level of closure.
Oh.
So my team will tell you that I push them very hard because we have to find the perpetrator. Is that it sort of stir you up.
Yes.
Because you sometimes put yourself in the position of the family member, those who are alive. What do you want? And you want to ensure that justice is done. So you continue to look at all the opportunities, you reflect, and even during the night you try to, in your head, what lines of inquiry should we make? What are the things that we need to do to ensure that the matter is resolved? So from that perspective, the passion that you have to see closure on behalf of the family, sometimes I find it difficult to sleep.
Okay. What, as a father, so sometimes some of the murder scenes, the gruesomeness of it fueled that passion for you to get justice on behalf of the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, sometimes I look at, sometimes you try to, it's not that you think a lot, I would say daydream, but sometimes I think of my children, the type of reaction that, or the type of response if it were my children. So there are some things that I don't allow my children to do. I don't know if it's a phobia, I don't know if it's a fear, but I'm afraid of them going and taking public transport, for argument's sake. Maybe overprotective.
Yeah.
If my children, if I know that they are not home, you can't have a sense of peace and calm until you know that they are home.
Yeah.
Sometimes my wife, said you are too paranoid. But I guess because of the experience that I have as a police officer, and I'm just being pragmatic, really,
Yes.
in terms of the environment in which we operate. So I think those are some of the challenges. My one son, maybe I'm a little overprotective where he's concerned. It's not that I'm overbearing,
Yes.
but he understands the reality of the environment in which we operate. As police officers, we believe that nobody should outsmart us.
Yes. Okay.
And we have that passion to say, listen, we are trained, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand the level of competence that we have within the organization. And the competences that we have can compete with any first world country.
Yeah. Sometimes people think that they're smart.
Smart, yes.
Yeah.
They think they're smart.
Yeah.
And there are sometimes, one of the things, that a lot of people are not aware, that a lot of crimes that have been committed, we know who committed them. But the reality is, knowing without the evidence
Yes.
cannot go before the court.
Yes.
So we have a responsibility to get the evidence, and evidence that can stand up to the scrutiny, to the rigors of both prosecution and defense.
And hence the push towards the forensics.
The forensic is important, but the forensic is important. But I kept on saying that the traditional, the IC evidence, because even if you have the forensic, there are going to be the need for the witness to come forward and say X. There are some things that forensic will not be able to deal with. Forensic support other evidence. So sometimes people watch these the show, the television,
Sure, yeah. Law and Order.
and
yes,
all
the other
the
police.
all
and
the
show.
police and show, and believe that that's how the crimes are solved. But it is more than that. I mean, in many instances, you have to have somebody to speak directly to systems and processes.
Yes, yes.
That
Those
some
are
definite
the
person,
expert witnesses that
and
they
not
would
only that,
call
but
in.
somebody need to come and identify that some definite person is dead.
Yes.
For example, in a case of murder and all of that. So
Yeah. What would be your best father moment in the police force, or best father moment from your children? Yeah.
I have, what I would say, I have 3 wonderful children, and we have a very good relationship. It's hard to identify a best father moment. There are so many. I really can't just pick one out of the hat.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I celebrated my 59th birthday recently, and the type of support that I got from my children were just overwhelming. My daughter, who was overseas, my son, and my other daughter, who played such a critical role. As a matter of fact, my daughter decided that, Daddy, you're not going to run things now, I am going to run things. So even some of the things that I had bought for my birthday, she said, Daddy, this is not good enough. And she just took it, and I don't know what she did, and she went and she got her own stuff.
With your team members who are fathers to be, do you find yourself in some moments, even unplanned, that you celebrate each other's daddy moments?
You see, right here at this, especially where I'm at now, we celebrate every moment. It's a team that we celebrate birthday, we celebrate. We had like Mother's Day. We just celebrate everything. I'm not really impressed with societal view of fathers and Father's Day. When you look at a Mother's Day celebration and the significant emphasis that is placed. When Mother's Day, I remember the last one decided to take the family out for dinner. You could find a restaurant. If you do, you have to sit and wait. And unfortunately, on Father's Day, you can just walk in a restaurant like a normal day. And even the pre-planning for Father's Day is a little different. And maybe men in this society are seen as, I consider, as an endangered species. Where, and I think society need to sort of relook on their approach, because the real problem in society is with men. The men that cause a problem in our society. When you go to the prison, of the prison population, which is average 4,000 persons in the prison at any one time, and the cycle continues.
And that's combined, 4,000 male and female.
Yeah, cycle. Maybe 99% of that population is men. And how do we really try to reorder society so that the focus can be placed on men, for men to recognize that we need to do much better in terms of taking on certain responsibility? How do we treat our children? How do we love our children? How do we cause our children to feel that sense of belonging and appreciated? How do we take on that responsibility as men to understand that we have a duty to ensure that our children are properly taken care of, that their social well-being, their emotional well-being, and their physical well-being are actually addressed. And that raising a child is not the responsibility of a mother or a woman, but there's a dual responsibility. And it is my view that maybe this may be odd, but I think there need to be legislative framework that forces a man to take responsibility for his children. It can't be if you want to. If you think you are mature enough to impregnate a woman and the child is identified as yours, there needs to be, in my view, not just an option, but a duty, maybe enshrined in law, for you to take care of your child.
But DCP, the jacket level out there, no normal, you know?
No, but even if you have the jacket level, you need to prove that it's a jacket.
And
If
once you prove
that's
that,
a different
yeah.
situation, but if it's your child, you must take care of your child.
Yeah.
It can't be left to government and taxpayers to take care of your child. You have a duty, and I'm strong against that. I'm strong against abuse in any form, be it abuse of female or abuse of male. And I think as men, we need to step up our involvement a little and take on some more responsibility for the well-being and welfare of our children.